So now that I have created and exported all my proxy geometry, I can come back inside of Nuke and replace all my cards by geometry. So I am gonna create some read geo nodes and I'm gonna replace the card by those. And in this read geo node, so you can just upload your obj. So I'm starting here by background number 1 and I go then to background number 2, 3 and 4. So there's definitely quite a lot of stretching that you can see here for the background number 1. So I will have to go back inside of Maya and definitely fix this a little bit, even though I'm sure that in the final comp it's not going to be that visible. But I would say that this, like in a professional environment, wouldn't pass. So a bit of stretching is acceptable because, on the other hand, I mean, you would be surprised. If it works for the shop, it usually works. I mean, typically once the shop is approved by the VFX supervisor, it will go through what we call the tech checks, and I will talk about that later. And maybe the guy who does the tech check will notice the stretching, and depending on how much it's visible, you will need maybe to fix it or not. But I would say that at this stage, I'm not too concerned about a little bit of stretching. That would be something to fix later on during the tech checks, if it needs to be fixed at all. So we'll see. So let's just first now see how this looks. Alright, so here we go. My Nuke is a bit laggy, so I may need to restart it. Okay, first thing I list right away is obviously we're lacking a lot of coverage here. And that's something I had expected because the projection is not perfectly straight behind the CG. It's also kind of on the left. So we definitely need to extend it. Now the good thing is that with my 11mm projection camera, I have really a large enough canvas to paint more than enough extension. So how am I going to paint this extension? Well, I don't exactly know. I will just use once again the clone stamp tool, even though in this case I probably don't have enough information to clone in my layer, so I will probably need to import some other photo elements, but it's gonna be pretty much the same process as I've used before. So first I could, for example, do like an underpaint layer very quickly. That is one way to do it, or you could also just import another photo element. I'm gonna first, just try to paint the extension and try to see what I can do with the clone stamp tool. Not exactly sure what I'm gonna do at this point. Let's also see what they have in the photos here. Yeah, I mean, there are not actually that much photos that have those trees. It's pretty much exactly what I already have. So I will need, I think, to find another photo. So this is the same for now. So I could also do that, just duplicate it and modify it with the clone stamp tool. So it doesn't look exactly the same. You never know, it might just work. We'll see. So I'm just going to put it behind. Might have to do some slight color correction to adjust the values. I can add back the color overlay layer maybe. It's almost already quite good. I will still probably need to play with the curves a little bit. And this is pretty much identical, I think. So this is quite nice. So that is one way of doing it. Now, obviously, you see the repetitions. This is very obvious. But then you can start to play with the paint eraser tool and clone stamp tool and try to see to get rid of those repetitions. Anyway, I mean, a big chunk of this is going to be hidden behind the tree. So it doesn't need to be perfect. Far from it, I think. Okay, it's already quite nice, I think. I mean, we still see the repetitions, but it's not too bad, I think, for now. Once again, I'm just getting rid of what I don't need, just for clarity, for the sake of being really clear, so there's not too much confusion, especially if you need to pass on the PSD to somebody else. You never know, it can happen. So let's try to bring in another photo here. So this one will need a bit more color correction, I think. As you can see now, it's leaning a lot towards the red, and we definitely need a bit more blue, a tiny bit of cyan. Once again, the more experience you have, the more you'll be able to see the colors. So putting a bit more cyan in the midtones, just a tiny little bit. Also maybe trying to see what playing with the blend if option does, even though in this case it will probably not work that well, I think. This doesn't look really good, so I'm not going to use the blend if option here. So at this stage, I'm once again staying quite crude. I just want to see if this photo is going to work or not at this stage. I'm not quite sure yet. So just getting rid of some edges very quickly. We still need to do some color corrections. Obviously, this is still way too magenta and reddish. Maybe the color overlay option will do the trick in this case. It's almost good, I think. Still gotta read a little bit of the red, the curves, and add a little bit more blue and a tiny bit of green. I think this is it. I think this is almost good now. So I can correct also this, once again using the clone stamp tool here. Just like picking really small areas and cloning them, just so we don't see like super obvious repetitions. I'm keeping in mind once again that this is like the far left of the image and it's mostly hidden by trees moving really fast, so it doesn't really need to be perfect, but there just needs to be something. You can also retouch a little bit the edges here. Could also use the defringe tool maybe. And we'll need to probably eyeball the treetops here. It's not quite clear where the limit is. That's a bit too much blue, I think, too saturated, so something like this will be better, I think. Still a tiny bit too much cyan, so I'm slightly desaturating the cyans here. Okay, this is almost good, I think, and now I can play maybe just a little bit with the blend diff option. And I think this is good, I think, so far. It might just need really minor adjustments, but it's already quite good, I think. Alright, so let's also slightly correct the values here. So I'm painting in lighten mode. Something like this should do the trick, I think. Little trick if you want it, guys. If you have troubles seeing the values, for example, well, just visualize your image in black and white, for example. That's a little trick that helps seeing the values. Because one thing I've personally noticed is that being able to really see values is something that usually comes later once your eye is properly trained. And it's also one of the most really important things, I think, if you want to do like an image that is really photoreal. You really want to have your values on point. Okay, so back inside of Nuke, let's see how this looks. It is not too bad, honestly. I would say it does still feel tiny bit too flat, so I might have to go back to Maya to tweak the projections a little bit, but I would say that overall it's quite good. I may also a little bit tweak the CG render, and actually, yeah, let me quickly, because I had retouched here the color of the mountain, as you can see. I may want to also do the same color correction to the castle, so I'm going to use the second puzzle matte pass that I have here, and my castle is in red and green for the roof, so I'm going to use another color correct node and use a channel merge, and I'm going to connect A and B of the channel merge to my puzzle matte and plug in the proper channels, so red and green, and I'm gonna get rid of some of the red so my castle is a bit more bluish. Okay, so at this stage I think we're quite good. There will be more adjustments, going back to Maya to change the geometry, going back to Photoshop to adjust a few things, but overall we can move on to the next part of the process, which is going to change the CG a little bit and make it look slightly better.